have never been a woman. This is a men's conference. So if women, you feel we are not talking for you, please understand we are a men. And you have never been women. That's the first disclaimer. Number 2, we would like to talk about men in your presence because our wives are likely to do 2 things. One of which is prevent us from being the right men God made us to be. And you are here, you are overhearing. So we are pleading with you to help us to be Christian men. Don't become the impediment that stops us from being who God created us to be. But there's another thing women can do. They can keep encouraging us, helping us to keep in the straight and the narrow. Yesterday in the men's conference, when question time came, the question that one of the questions I thought was very interesting, and I thought it was from a young man, is they asked me, the fact that I married Rebecca, has it made a difference to my life? In other words, would I be different? You're remembering, men, you are remembering the question. Would I be different if I did not marry Rebecca? I started by answering to say, first of all, I believe the Lord brought Rebecca and John together. So there was no possibility of me marrying somebody else as long as I was walking with the Lord. Because Rebecca was not my choice. She was God's choice. But number 2, the truth I must accept is that she has had a lot of influence on my life. One of the great influences she has had is the fact that she is committed to mission. And so when I go for mission, when you use family money for mission, I know she will not complain. You can imagine if I married a girl who will be thinking, money, what's the return on investment? You went there, you use there. Just tell me the ROI for all this money you are spending all over. You'd soon slow down. Would you agree with me, men? So it's important to understand the role of women. But you are not my subject. My subject is men. Yesterday, we looked at man, as a Christian man, having impact in the marketplace. Today, we look at Christian man having impact at home. And I think that's very important to discuss in the few minutes we have available. Number 1, let's be clear. Slowly, men are starting not to be recognized to have a role. My wife is a lecturer at the university, and one of the years, she has taught in the university for about 30 years. One of the years, she tells me, she decided to ask young people to say, what is the role of a man? She divided the blackboard into 2. One side is men, the other side, or rather fathers, and the other side is mothers. She asked the young man she said, I'll just write whatever you tell me. And you see, the young people talk. These are university young people in their 20s. They talk. And they said, one boy said, yeah, the role of a man is to be a provider. She was about to write. The other man said, what? Provide. My father, if it were not for my mother, I would not be in the university. We don't know where he takes his money. And even the one mama makes, he also takes away. Now, mom, there is no way we can agree that men are providers. If it were not for mom, I would not be in this university. The debate became long until she had to rub it. Because they agreed. They were in agreement. Men are not providers. So he says, what next? Another one now dared in defense of his father. He said, men are the protection of homes. They are security officers of homes. And she was about to write, wait a minute. My father comes at night. We can't close the gate. And when he comes, you don't know whether it's a thief. Now, you need to understand. You need to understand fathers are security risk. So there was no way we agree for you to write that. No, they took so long. But after some time, she realized they have written nothing on the men's side. So she said, okay, let's stop that one. Let's write on the woman's side. Who is a mother? The first one said, mother is the comforter of the home. She wrote, nobody complained. Mother is a provider. She wrote, nobody complained. Mother is the hope of the family. She wrote, the blackboard was full. She turned the other side. Can we try at least to put one or two things on the men's side? But they were agreed. Both boys and girls were agreed. They really are looking for something they can't find. One boy stood up in the defense of the father and said, I can't see any role my father has had on my life except one. He taught me how to whistle. My friend, you can see we are slowly becoming irrelevant. But I know some men I know there are some young people here, so I'll be careful which language I take. But I know there are some people saying, but you know, these children, don't they know they came from me? What's wrong with them? They should have said that fathers are important because without them we cannot have children. And that is if you have not been reading newspapers. Because they say in Nairobi hospital, you can actually get a child without knowing who is the father. What is that thing being called? It's being called what? Sperm bank. Okay, that's the word. And with a sperm bank, no men are required except booze. Now you need to understand. You need to understand that if this men's conference is important, to ask ourselves, will we allow ourselves to become irrelevant? God's intentions were not that we become irrelevant. He actually intended us for us to have a role in our marriages, in our homes. Let me tell you one of the things that makes us irrelevant is because we have been imbalanced. Like we said yesterday, we are imbalanced. We think of making money, and we are making money according to us for the family. But after making money, they forget. Just like, so a lot of boys deal with their fathers like banks. You don't have to know you are a bank officer. After all, even when you write a check, you don't say please pay. You say you order him. Pay to the order of. A check is an instruction, an order to the bank to pay nganga if you want me to get the money. Because you don't beg banks. Because your relationship is money. Are we together? And many fathers have become banks. So the boy may know that the money is coming from the bank, but they have no relationship with the child. Now, you wait until you are now our age, in our 70s. And you keep asking, why are you not bringing the grandchildren home? Every time you call them, you call your children because you want to see the grandchildren. What they don't understand that you want a meeting. Remember that you are a bank. So they start thinking the bank role has changed. So every time you ring to ask, when are you visiting? They M-Pesa you. You ring again, more M-Pesa. Because you see, for them, they know you don't need to talk. The reason you are ringing is really, the reason you are ringing is because you want money. So they keep sending you M-Pesa. But you say, why are you not coming? I'm busy at work. Just like you used to be busy at work. You are getting return on your investment. So you need to understand what you are doing in your 20s, 30s, 40s is what you are going to reap in your 60s, 70s, and 80s if the Lord gives you those years. And one of the things we as men must make a decision about is that we will not become banks. We will have a relationship. The solution to our problem is being present at home. Being present and available to our wives. Being present and available to our children. And creating friendship in whichever area we are discussing. Let me read you a teenager's prayer, which I saw somewhere, and I thought a very interesting prayer. This prayer was written as an assignment by a teacher, given to a woman teacher, and she read it to her husband. You know, the way you have a lecturer teacher, so sometimes she comes and tells me what was happening in class. So this woman teacher came home and read this letter to her husband. Just listen. It might be your wife. The letter read, written by a child. Oh God, tonight I ask you something very special. Make me into a television. I want to take its place. Live like the TV in my house. Have my own special place. Have my family around me. To be taken seriously when I talk. I want to be the center of attention and be heard without interruption or questions. Is that true of our TV? Can you see the child is clever? So if I became a TV, the whole family will be around me. Can you see what the child is asking the Lord? He says, I want to receive the same special care that the TV gets when it is not working. Have the company of my dad when he arrives home from work. Even when he is tired, he still looks at the TV but can't talk to his son. And I want my mom to want me when she is sad and upset instead of ignoring me. And I want my brothers to fight to be with me. I want to feel that family just leaves everything aside every now and then just to spend some time with me. And last, but not least, make it that I can make them all happy and entertain them. Lord, I don't ask you for much. I just want to live like every TV. Is that your child? My men friends, who is saying, make me a TV. But you see, this thing was written some time back. If it was written this year, it would not be the TV, it would be the smartphone. Am I right? Because the smartphone is slowly replacing the TV. You come home, and the smartphone is in total control. You have been absent the whole day. Now it is evening, and you are still absent. Okay, your body is there, but you are actually absent. So that many homes, fathers are absent, present, if that makes sense. And it has to do with the smartphone. When the woman had finished reading the letter or the assignment, the husband said, my God, poor kid, what horrible parents he has. She looked up at him and said, that essay is from our son. Can you imagine the shock of the husband? Because he had never imagined that could be describing him. And we want to ask ourselves, is that so? What is the major role of men according to God? The major role of a man is to produce godly children. So you need to understand, even if you become the richest man, at the day of judgment, when evaluations are done, it will be, did you carry your assignment as a father? Did you produce godly children? And if that became your objective in life, everything else will be aligned to it. You know, the other day, a friend of mine told me a very interesting story where a pastor from a Pentecostal church was trying to see where the child can go a good school. And he thought the best school where they were getting marks was a Catholic school, actually led by a father. So he sent his son to the Catholic school, Form 1. By Form 2, the boy came and told the Pentecostal father, I want to be baptized a Catholic. He said, what? I sent you for education. I never sent you to change your denomination. What's wrong with you? He said, when you go to school, I'm delivering you to school. I want to talk to the headmaster. The headmaster has told me nothing. It has nothing to do with the headmaster. It's me who has looked at you and your church, looked at the Catholic Church, and I think from the way our teachers and principal behaves, I want to be a Catholic. On the day of opening, and this is a true story, on the day of opening, the Akere drove to school. And he said, he wants to see the headmaster. And he went with his son. And he said, Mr. Headmaster, you know where? Yes, I know you're a pastor. Did I send you my son to convert? So he turned and said, son, I thought when you told me you wanted to convert, I told you, I can't do that. I know your father. Yes, I have told the son said, I told him, it has nothing to do with you. It's my choice. I don't know why he has come to talk to you, because you have never told me to be a Catholic. At no time did you ever try to convert me to a Catholic. But you know what happened? Two things. It's a boarding school. Once you send your child to boarding school, you cease to be the real father. The teachers become the real father. Studies tell us we are 80% our environment, only 20% our genes. In other words, although it can be proved with DNA, you are the father of the boy. Whoever he grew around determined who he is. And you can do, these days it's easy to Google. It's called nature versus nurture. That's the study. And it's clear that you are not who you are, who was your father and the DNA. You are who brought you up. So if you have no time with your children, let it be clear to you. Whoever is around them is the real father. That's why you can find two parents. They both have PhDs. And their children don't seem to be doing well academically in any area. And you say, whose children are you? Clear. The child has been brought up by a standard 5 dropout for house girl. And spend all the time there. So the real parent is a standard 5 dropout. So why are you asking him to go to high school? Now you need to understand, you are not the parent. The real parent are the people around him. And that's what you have read in Deuteronomy chapter 6. That you need to be around your child when you are standing up, when you are walking up. That means you are totally with your children. And it's important to ask yourself, is that what you are doing or not? Children need fathers. And especially boys need men for mentors. But I'm told again by studies that I read that girls need fathers even more than boys. Because if a girl grows without knowing the love of the father, she'll say yes to the first boy who says, I love you, even if he's a crook. And you'll be the one to blame for having not been available to your daughter. Because she never understood men, because the man that was supposed to be helping this daughter was totally absent. So the first boy who says, I love you, even if he's a crook, will be the person they fall for. So our discussion in this men's conference then is, something must change. Many sons in our day and age spend a lot of time separated from their fathers due to work constraints. But that's sometimes not just work constraints. It is the problem between mother and father, sometimes leading even to divorce. But that's one problem. The fathers are away. But there's another one. Boys who have fathers but are not fathered. Here is the father is available, is actually physically there, but he's not fathering the child. The lack of consistent male role model in the house is true in especially single mothers' homes. Oftentimes, though, these boys are able to find father figures and mentors in the men who facilitate in areas like sports, in schools, in camps. But the truth is, the one who is the biological father was given a responsibility by God to be the one that is available. Let me read for you Malachi chapter 2, verse 15. Has not the Lord made them one? In flesh and spirit they are his. And why one? Because he was seeking godly offspring. So guard yourself in your spirit and do not break faith with the wife of your youth. In other words, we're asking, why did God make fathers, men? And he gives an answer. Because he was seeking a godly offspring. In other words, when your child is up and running on his own, when God is going to evaluate your success, it will not be that he went to Alliance. It will not be that he went to Harvard. It will be, did he become a godly child? And don't quote me. These are the scriptures saying. So you need to understand that that's the most important thing. So when if that becomes clear, then right from the time the child is small, a toddler, you will be available. You will not take your child to a boarding primary school because you want to stay with your child as long as possible. Because the moment you take a preteen to a boarding school, you become a stranger to the child. And those people take over. And the trouble, and some of you went through boarding school, the trouble with boarding school, they even have what people they call house mothers. But they are boys. Many people, families are not like yours. They are dysfunctional family. And they are the ones who have taken their children to be neighbors with your child. And that's how small children end up getting into drugs. And something else, they end up becoming homosexuals because they started living together in a boys' boarding school at a very early age. Whose is the cause of that? Fathers who are irresponsible, who felt like a child is a disturbance. I can make money better if I take a 6-year-old child to a boarding school, even before they know how to clean their noses. You need to understand the scriptures are saying you do that, and you have to reckon with God himself. You are the one who prayed seriously, God, give me a child. And there are people who are prayed for be given a children and they never got. You got. Then after you got your child, you now feel the child is a disturbance. You do not want to actually interfere with your work. You do that and you have to answer to God. Why didn't you carry your responsibility the way God gave you? And I think that will be something that's very, very important. Let me read Ephesians 3, verse 14 and 15. For this reason, I knew before the Father, from whom his whole family in heaven and on earth derives its name. Are you getting what the scripture is saying? That a father derives his name from the fatherhood of God. So when you say, I'm a father, what you mean, I am heaven's representative. And that is repeated in the Lord's Prayer. In the Lord's Prayer, we read, our Father who art in. What's the implication? That although you have not seen him, if you really want to know how he looks like, look at your other father. It's only this one is another one. The other one is heavenly. So when you are a father who is a crook, you are teaching, when you teach your child the Lord's Prayer, he starts imagining, since my other father is a crook, the heavenly one also must be a crook. See, you are the one teaching the child to pray, our Father who art in, implying you are representing that one. The moment I understood that, I had to ask God for forgiveness. Because I haven't been that kind of a father. Conscious that everything I do as a father, I'm doing it representing God the Father. Because I draw my name from the fatherhood of God. So I'm not supposed to be comparing my fatherhood with how I was fathered myself. I may have had a crook of a father. That's not the issue. I am supposed to draw my fatherhood from heaven itself. And to know how I treat my children, and this in my time, also my grandchildren, in a way, must reflect how God fathers. And if you don't, your children not ask you questions, because they don't even know that's your responsibility. But you have to answer before God. So you need to understand that in this men's conference, that God is asking you, if you really were to evaluate your fatherhood, can you say that that is who you are? Remember, a child who was being taught how to stay in his own room away from his parents' room, kept feeling afraid, and then running back to the master bedroom. He said, no, you are a boy. If you feel afraid, just pray to God. Next time you feel afraid, just pray to God. So again, there was a thunderstorm, and the boy couldn't stay in his bed. He ran back to the parents, and he said, I thought we told you to pray to God. And the boy answered, I want to pray to God, but I want to have God with a skin on. You get the message of the boy? And that's what our Father is. God with a skin on. And so we need to ask ourselves, is that what we are doing as men? Are we really God with a skin on? So whether you look at the Lord's Prayer or at Ephesians, the challenge will be simple. Are we really being that? This is especially important because they say habits are caught, not taught. In other words, it's not what you tell your child, it's how you live your life. One of my workmates told me a story, and I thought it was very interesting. Since we started our school just before independence, most of the schools were missionary schools. So we grew up, even those who are non-Christians, we grew up, those who were in school before independence, we grew up in mission schools. So this particular friend of mine is a non-Christian. So he wants his children to also be brought up the way he was brought up in, although he himself does not practice it. So he tells his wife, my children must go to Sunday school. But because of where he spent the night on Saturday night, he's not able to wake up. So the wife, obeys and takes the children to Sunday school. When he's waking up around 12 is when they are coming back from church. And he says he was in his bedroom up, and the boys were playing down after church, and he overheard his son saying, when I grow up, I want to be like my father. I will not be going to church. Now, remember, he has invested heavily for the boy to go to church. Of course, the boys are not aware that the father is listening. And he said, yes, I know my father is such a good man. If church was for men, he would be there. But I know church is for boys and their mothers. When I grow older, I can't go to a women, children place. Like my father, I will no longer be going to church. And he was telling me, I was in shock. And I told him, clearly, the boy listens to you. But habits are caught, not taught. So you need to understand that, like Deuteronomy chapter 6 is telling us, it will be what you do, not what you tell them, but what you do. And you need to understand. Let me tell you an example. You want to teach him to be a responsible husband? Because you see the trouble with the family life, there is no college for family. It's the only place where you get a license and then learn how to drive later. You get, in the wedding, they give you a marriage certificate. Then you go to learn how to be a husband. Now, that's really the basic problem. So you don't learn in advance. And you need to understand that as you go into marriage and into fatherhood, it will be important that you ask God, like Manoah. You know Manoah? He was the father of who? Oh, you're failing your Bible test. Samson. He cried, God, teach us. Because the first time the angel came, he said what will happen. And then the wife told the husband what the angel had said. Now they say, no. That child looks so special. He said, can he come back and teach us how to bring up that child? And we all need to be at that level where we are asking God for direction on how we. But the thing you must understand then is that you have to find a way of being available to your child. Let me give you an example. Another example of this thing we are talking about in the relationship. You take your child to school, like I did, most of the 1980s, and into 90s. Every morning, if you're a Nairobi parent, every morning you drop them. Initially, you were dropping them at 8. Then they brought it to 7:30. Then they came to 7. I don't know what time now you are dropping them. But by the time my last born finished primary school in the 1990s, we were going very early. But at no time, and I have 3 children, I have never dropped my children late to school. And I know many men here are proud to do that. Then you are told to come to church at 10 o'clock, and you can't come on time. So remember you're talking about habits are caught, not taught. What do you think your son knows? Education is serious. You must be there on time. But church, ni mchezo tu, ni drama. If you arrive early, it's okay. If you arrive late, it's still okay. So you are a serious Christian. But what you don't know, you are communicating to your son and your daughter is church is not very, it's just a social thing. And that's really what they are catching. And remember, I read at the beginning, your objective is to produce godly offspring. But you do not take church seriously. And you are not even aware you don't take it seriously. But let me ask you, how can you be on time at 7 a.m. and unable to be on time at 10 o'clock? Isn't the message clear? Because it means you don't value the things of God. And it's important to ask yourself. Or I'll give you another example. Your son becomes number 1 in class. Then your brother, his uncle, comes to visit. What are you likely to tell him, especially if you're a Kikuyu? So the boy is named after the uncle's father, who is also your father. When he comes and says, talk to your nephew. You know, your father, he was number 1. So the uncle said, you are number 1? Yes, uncle was number 1. And they all talk about what a wonderful son and nephew they have. One day, that same boy comes home and says, I got saved. Remember, the parents are also saved. So you got saved. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Oh, we thank God for you. That's wonderful. The uncle visits the following Sunday. The boy waits for the parent to excitedly talk about the fact that the son is saved. The subject is not mentioned. Do those things happen? What does the boy understand? Becoming number 1 in class, important. Getting saved. Is it neither here nor there? And anyway, he has watched you. The way you behave when the pastor is visiting is totally different from the way you behave normally. The way you treat the mother is totally opposite of what they said in church. You know, he understands Christianity is drama acted in church. At home, you don't have to steal. You know, when you are in drama, you wear a costume, isn't it? But you don't wear a costume at home. You wear other things, isn't it? So home, you are real. Church, you are in costume. And your Christianity is the better dramatist you are. So you talk with a King James language, you know. And your children are still watching, isn't it? They know how you talk with their mother. How rough you are with your mother. Then when you come to church, like preachers like me, like saying, I want to introduce my wife. She's the most beautiful woman south of the Sahara, north of Limpopo. Now, your son is still listening. Am I communicating? And she knows church is theater for drama. And my father is a good dramatist. So you need to understand that, like we are saying, it will be important to understand habits are caught, not taught. For example, if you really want your son to end up with a good marriage, there is no teaching before. He watches the parents. And how you treat his mother is likely to influence how you treat his wife. Am I right? So if you really love your son, love his mother. The more you love his mother, the more he feels secure. Am I right? In fact, I read another study recently, which is saying even small study, 6 boys, 10-year-olds, are starting to have stomach ulcers. And the teachers are researching what the issue. And the issue is several of the children, a big percentage, more than 30% of the class, are no longer, the parents, the fathers are no longer available. And they are the friends of your son. So the son starts saying, Aya, did you actually have a father? Yes, he just left us. So he starts imagining, even you are likely to also leave. The only question is when. In fact, they are saying that some of the boys, small boys, 10-year-olds, now these days, wait until all are in bedroom. Then they go to the keyhole of their parents' bedroom to hear whether they are quarreling. And if they hear you quarrel, they know the time is coming. And it's soon. When my father will leave my mother. And that worries the 10-year-old to the extent of ending up with stomach ulcers. My friend, you are the one destroying your son by the way you treat your wife. Because the security of the boy to feel like I have a home to go to depends on how you relate with the mother. You cannot love the boy without loving the mother. That's what security is. When a child realizes my father and mother can never part. You know, home is where your mother is. Would you agree with me? That's why we have bought expensive houses in Nairobi, but you don't call them home. You end up at Kabatojo, and that's what you call home. Although that's at that house. But where your mother is home. You need to start understanding clearly. For your son, you are destroying his security in terms of what he calls home. And the message to me and to you today as men is that we need to change, and I'm summarizing, in 3 ways. Number 1, be available to our wives and children. Number 2, act knowing you are actually acting on behalf of the Father. Always ask, would my heavenly Father I like this? And number 3, having understood habits are caught, not taught, ask the Lord to help you to live a life worth emulating by your children. Let us pray.